Hello and welcome to today's lesson. So today we'll be talking about output peripheral devices. So to better understand what output peripheral devices, we need to do a recap on what we've covered so far about peripheral devices. So peripheral devices, you said these devices that are connected to a computer system in order to enable the person using the computer system to perform specific tasks. Okay, or in order to enable the computer system to perform specific tasks. Okay, so we did look at the first example of peripheral devices, which are input devices. So these are devices that are used to enter data into a computer system so that the data can be processed. So examples of these, we talked of the keyboards, we talked of the different types of keyboards, we talked of cameras, we talked of touch screens, microphones, and etc. Okay, so now today we want to focus on the output. So after the information that the information has been processed, what are the devices that the computer might need for it to display the information to the user? Okay, so these are what we're referring to as output peripheral devices. So these are the devices that the computer system will need to display information to the user. Okay, so information that is displayed from a computer system can either be soft copy, where it is just on a screen or projected onto a wall, and once those devices that are being used to display information in such a manner turn off, even the information also disappears. You can also display information in hard copy, where even if the device that is being used is turned off, you still remain with the information that has been processed. Okay, so the first type of output peripheral device that we'll look at today is known as a monitor. So a monitor is used to display information in soft copy. Okay, so it is used to display information that has been processed, but the information can only be displayed on a screen, and the screen is what we refer to as a monitor. So the first type of monitor that we look at is known as a CRT, or otherwise known as a cathode ray tube. So a cathode ray tube is a type of monitor that uses or utilizes a firing gun which fires 3 beams of electrons onto millions of dots on a phosphor screen. So once these electrons hit the phosphor screen or the dots on the phosphor screen, they light up, and in doing so they create an image that can be perceived by the user. Okay, so these type of monitors, as can be seen in the illustration, are quite old, and I don't think they are used anymore, but it's ancient technology, but back in the day they were used. Some of the advantages of this type of monitor is that they have a very good viewing angle, in the sense that most of them are usually curved. Okay, so that makes them to sort of like, even if you're seated in a very awkward sort of like angle to the screen, you still be able to see something. Okay, and secondly, they are used in computer aided designs or computer aided manufacturing, so you can use them in conjunction with the light pen, to move around things on the screen and the like. Okay, some of the disadvantages that come with such a monitor, as we have seen the shape, it implies that it obviously is quite heavy. And it's quite heavy, meaning is that to require first of all you to handle it with care, because if it falls down, it can damage whatever surface that it does fall on, and obviously it will also get damaged because of that weight. Secondly, the other advantage is that it will take up a lot of space on a table, seeing that it's not flat, it has some bulge behind it. So yeah, it will take up a bit of space on a desk. The other disadvantage that comes with this type of monitors, since they're old, the energy efficiency isn't all that, so they will use up quite a bit of power as compared to the newer models, like the ones that we look at next. Okay, so the next type of monitor that we look at is known as LCD, otherwise referred to as liquid crystal display. So this type of monitor utilizes liquid crystals as well as three sort of like colored pixels. So LCD monitors, on the other hand, fall under the category of thin film transistors. So these are flat paneled monitors. So how do they work? So LCD monitors will have a positive and negative electrode, which is where the liquid crystals are going to be sandwiched. Okay, so as can be seen in the picture up there, the backlighting is going to shine onto the positive part, and the light will travel through the crystals onto the negative part. So once sort of like current is run through these two parts, what will happen is that these crystals are going to react and sort of like form shapes that will allow a certain amount of light to pass through them. Okay, so this light that is that passes through to the negative part sort of like now goes on to be filtered through individual pixels, and these individual pixels are made up of the RGB, which is the green, the red, green, and blue sort of like filters. So once the light passes through these red, green, blue filters, they will then project an image onto a final glass or the final sort of like screen, which then represents an image that is perceived by a human being, as can be seen in the above picture. Okay, so this type of monitors allow for sharper images to be displayed, and the fact that they are slim also allows them to not to occupy too much space on a desk. Okay, some of the advantages of disadvantages of this type of monitors is that you find that they will you have limited viewing angle since they're flat. So if you're seated in a certain sort of like corner, you will not be able to see much. Okay. Other disadvantages include that they will use up less amount of energy since they're new technology. So most of the things that have been improved upon from the cathode ray tube are put in this type of technology in order to reduce energy consumption. And since they don't consume too much power, it means that they won't produce as much heat as a cathode ray tube might. Okay. There are also different types of the other different type of monitor that you might come across is known as LED. So LED, as can be seen in this video above, you have individual pixels. Instead of having a backlight that is shining through like the way a liquid crystal display works, you have individual sort of like lights that are turning on and off, and then these individual lights are filtered through the RGB spectrum in order to display an image onto the screen. So these are obviously a little bit vivid as compared to LCD, but all the advantages of LCD come to these type of monitors, and some of the disadvantages. Okay, so let's move on into looking at some of the other output devices that can be used to produce soft copy output. And one example of this type of peripheral device is known as a projector. So what is a projector? A projector is a sort of like a multimedia device that can be used to sort of like display an image onto a larger surface. So this image can be displayed onto maybe a board, or it can be displayed onto a wall, or can be displayed onto a small screen. Okay, so projectors are usually used to make images larger than they would be on a monitor. What would be the advantage of using projectors as compared to conventional monitors? Okay, so with monitors, I'm sure you've seen with the issue of pandemic, like the one we have right now. So you have situations where grouping is not allowed. So a projector will allow for audiences to view what is being talked about without having to cluster around. Hello, how are you?
Okay. The one day, can I just collect?
I think most of the teachers are behind.
Okay.
Yeah. Without having to cluster around. So a question might come, like the one that was given homework, to say how do multimedia projectors enhance web presentation? Okay, so multimedia projectors will allow for users to embed such things as videos, audio, animation in their presentation. We do not say learning is not simply by me sort of like sitting here and just having to go about what a projector is, but I can bring up a picture of a projector and people will be able to, relate with that. I can bring up a video of how a projector works and people will also be able to relate to that, and I can also use the audio part. So it enhances how the work is presented by sort of like bringing all those aspects of presentation in one meeting. Okay. All right. We move on. Another type of output device that we come across is known as a printer. So a printer is a device that is used to sort of like output information from the computer in form of hard copy. So it turns soft copy into hard copy. Okay. So with a printer, obviously, you're talking of putting information either onto a paper or putting information onto a canvas or a surface that can then later on be viewed even without the printer being on. Okay, so there are two types of printers, which is impact printers and non-impact printers. Okay, so the impact printers usually have a printing head which sort of like hits against the paper or the material being printed, and once they've made a sort of like gouge into the material being printed, ink will then be ink, or toner will then be sort of like filled into the depression that has been left by the printing head. Then you have another impact printer, meaning it does not hit anywhere on the piece of paper or the material being printed, but simply it sort of utilizes technologies like laser. Like for instance, a laser printer will use laser to embed the ink or the toner onto a piece of paper so that it can form letters or pictures that are being printed out. Okay, so examples obviously of impact printers, you have your dot matrix. The dot matrix, if you haven't come across that, this type of printer to find in shop, right? Those printers that print out the receipts from there. You go and buy your Kazan, airtime, or whichever thing that you're buying using Kazan, there will be a receipt that will be printed out. So that type of printer, you can even hear it when it starts printing, the noise from it to show that it's hitting against the paper. Okay. For the non-impact printers, you have your laser printers.